Alright, so you probably think that this video is about Michael Saylor buying so much Bitcoin that he's single-handedly dragging it to new all-time highs. But actually no, that's not what this video is about. At least not directly. You see, Michael Saylor is responsible for a lot of the buying out there. But this video is about the tidal wave of buying that's about to come that'll make even Saylor's buys look like peanuts. Now, you're probably wondering, who can even buy so much Bitcoin to put Saylor's billion-dollar buys to shame? Well, here's the thing. It's not just one person or entity, but rather a group of corporations, funds, etc. that are all looking to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, as fast as possible. Now, I'm going to share all the different entities in that group with you, but first, I gotta say, even though Saylor himself isn't doing the buying here, we actually have him to thank for all of this. You see, back in August of 2020, Michael Saylor made one of the boldest moves in corporate history. He took his old school software company, MicroStrategy, and turned it into the world's first Bitcoin-focused publicly traded company. Basically, he converted most of their corporate treasury from cash to Bitcoin, starting with the massive $250 million buy. Now, this move was honestly crazy, and most people on Wall Street laughed at him. But here's the thing, Saylor was dead serious. You see, this was during COVID times, and he saw all the governments around the world printing money out the wazoo. So he thought, wow, our cash reserves are getting devalued by the day, but what can I do about it? Well, he looked at all the options available to him and landed on Bitcoin, specifically for its scarce, deflationary nature backed by code. Now, long story short, this became one of the most successful bets ever because MicroStrategy stock had been struggling for 20 freaking years since the dot-com crash. But this move brought it to new all-time highs. In late 2020 and 2021, MicroStrategy was essentially Wall Street's best way to get Bitcoin exposure before the ETFs existed. So when Bitcoin's price went up, MicroStrategy stock went up even more. And retail investors even got in on the party, so everyone was loving Saylor as the price went up. But here's where things get interesting, as Saylor was so addicted to buying Bitcoin that just using his cash reserves wasn't enough. So he started using Wall Street level financial engineering, like issuing convertible bonds and additional shares to buy even more Bitcoin. Some people called this the infinite money glitch, because investors who believed in this strategy happily scooped up those shares at a premium. And now, MicroStrategy holds over $60 billion worth of Bitcoin, and they're up almost 60% overall on their stack. Now, imagine you're another company's CEO watching this. You're probably like, dang, we gotta get in on this too, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. You see, tons of companies and entities are rushing to buy Bitcoin, copying Saylor's strategy. But just who are they? How much money are they bringing to the table? And are they doing anything different from MicroStrategy? Or are they literally copying them to a T? Well, those are some great questions that we should definitely look into for the biggest companies in this group. Starting with the one that some people call the Japanese MicroStrategy. So Metaplanet is basically doing the same thing as MicroStrategy. And they've accumulated over 5,000 BTC by issuing zero interest yen-denominated bonds. Since April of 2024, their stock has rocketed an insane 1,700%. But guess what? In some ways, they're even better than MicroStrategy. You see, they have fewer employees, lower overhead, more BTC per share, and they even paid off their debt 5 months early. So now they are expanding to the US, looking to buy even more Bitcoin and going head to head with MicroStrategy itself. But anyhow, the next entity that's gobbling up Bitcoin just like MicroStrategy is 21 Capital, which really stands out to me because it is backed by some huge names such as Tether, Bitfinex, and SoftBank. They're starting out with a massive 42,000 BTC balance, making them the third largest corporate holder from the get-go. Plus, they're led by Jack Mallers, the CEO of Strike, who is basically a Bitcoin legend, and I'm a huge fan of his. Now, they are going public via a SPAC merger, and the stock of the merging entity already skyrocketed 300% after the announcement. But one thing that's different from this company is that they're not just going to use Bitcoin as a store of value, but also as a medium of exchange. So that's pretty cool to see. Now, another big player in the space is led by another superstar in the Bitcoin world, aka David Bailey. The entity is called Nakamoto, and they are merging with a NASDAQ-listed healthcare company called Kindly MD. Now, one thing that's notable is that they're raising over $700 million to buy Bitcoin, and they've got some big-time backing from OGs such as Adam Back, Balaji Srinivasan, and Jihan Wu. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Now, the next entity that's following in Saylor's footsteps is also founded by a superstar, but not one in the Bitcoin space. But before we get there, I want to quickly share something new from our channel partner, 3 That's a huge help if you're into automated crypto trading. So they've just launched a new backtesting feature for their DCA bots. And before, you basically had to guess how your bot would perform, which honestly is not ideal. But now with this one-click backtest button, you can instantly test your bot's settings against historical market data, seeing exactly how your strategy would have performed. I'm talking profits, losses, fees, even maximum drawdown, all before risking your own capital. It's super easy. You pick your time frame, run the test, and get detailed analytics instantly. You can even export results to a spreadsheet if you want to dig further. So this takes out all the guesswork and helps you trade smarter and safer. That's why if you are using trading bots or have been thinking about trying one, then definitely check out the new 3 backtesting feature using my link below. All right, back to the Bitcoin buying companies. And the superstar behind this next one is none other than Vivek Ramaswamy. You know, the guy who's running for the governor of Ohio. Anyways, it's called Strive Asset Management, and they're merging with a company already on the NASDAQ called Asset Entities. They plan to raise over $1 billion to fund their Bitcoin strategy. But perhaps even more interesting than that is that first, they are using a smart tax strategy that lets investors contribute Bitcoin without triggering capital gains tax. And second, they're looking to acquire undervalued companies that are trading below their cash value and use those cash reserves to buy Bitcoin. So both of those moves are quite unique, which could explain why the stock price of their merger partner exploded 10x in the days following their announcement. Anyhow, next up, there's an entity that's looking to bring MicroStrategy's approach to Latin America. And that's none other than Orange, which is looking to spend $210 million on their Bitcoin strategy. Now, although they aren't directly funded by Itaú Unibanco, aka Latin America's largest private bank, the bank is providing them with advisory services. And overall, Orange just shows us that Bitcoin treasury strategies are spreading rapidly around the world, even to Latin America, where adoption of Bitcoin is already on the up and up. Now, honestly, there are even more companies I could mention, but the main point here is that the market appetite for these Bitcoin treasury companies is insane. And if you were paying attention at all to the numbers I was tossing around and you add them all up, then you'd get billions of dollars that are flowing into Bitcoin as we speak. And here's the thing, these aren't just one-time buys. Nope, they're going to keep on raising money and reinvesting their profits into Bitcoin, just like MicroStrategy has done all along. In fact, many analysts say that Bitcoin's recent move to new all-time highs was due to these Bitcoin treasury companies buying hand over fist. But here's the thing, it's not always rainbows and sunshine with this approach. Like, there's definitely risk here. Similar to the dot-com bubble where reckless buying and over-leverage led to trouble in the future, the same thing could happen here if Bitcoin hits another brutal bear market. Like, if the price falls too low, then some of these companies could get margin called, and that could trigger a cascade of panic selling worse than what we saw during the FTX collapse. But anyhow, regardless of those black swan scenarios, the present upside is still clear. Like, all these billions flowing into Bitcoin's limited supply creates a feedback loop that could push prices so much higher. I'm talking 150, 180, or even 200K like some analysts are predicting. I mean, that would be crazy, right? Like, at first when those analysts predicted such high numbers, I was like, No way. But now seeing all these companies pop up in droves, the fundamental case for those numbers is so much more realistic for me. But anyhow, the bottom line is that Michael Saylor started a movement that's taking Bitcoin to new all-time highs. Institutions are finally all in, which is what people have been saying all the way back in 2017, but it took almost a decade for it to happen. So if you hold any Bitcoin at all, then you can't ignore this wave, as it might just reshape the future of Bitcoin forever. But hold up, because there is still one bearish catalyst on the horizon, and that's Trump's ongoing trade war. You see, you might think that all that stuff is over, but negotiations are still ongoing, and the current status quo is just a 90-day truce period with China. So if you want to know all that might happen with that circus and how each scenario would affect Bitcoin, then just watch this video right here, where I break down the 3 most likely scenarios.